Approximately 5 years ago, I started learning how to draw, and today my drawings look like this. During my artistic journey, I've learned a lot, so in this video I would like to share 10 concepts that I've learned along the way, but which would have been immensely helpful to me if I had been told them early on. Some of these things I will talk about are more concrete and specific to drawing, while others will be more abstract. But regardless of whether you're a beginner artist or an intermediate one like me, I believe you will find something useful in this video. Without further ado, let's jump right into our first topic, which is shadows, or rather the color of shadows. In many shading tutorials, you are told to pick a purple color and then set the brush to multiply. Or sometimes you are told to use blue for shadows, which is technically correct for some lighting scenarios, but not for all. So what is the correct color for a shadow then? To answer this question, let's look at a sphere during a sunny day. The sides facing towards the sun will be lit in a yellowish and warm color. The shadow, however, will have a bluish cold tone towards the top and a warmer greenish tone towards the bottom. The reason for the bluish tone is the sky, which functions as a secondary light source. A light source which would actually affect the whole sphere, but since the sunlight is much stronger, it overpowers the blue light. Therefore, the blue light can only be seen in the shadows. But what is the reason for this warmer tone down here then? Why isn't it blue too? Well, that is because the sunlight hitting the grass around the sphere is being reflected back up. In conclusion, the color of a shadow is determined by its secondary light source, which can either be a whole nother light like the blue sky or a bounce light. Also, if there isn't a secondary light source, then the shadow doesn't have any particular color either. When you paint in your shadow color, an easy way to do this is to pick the color of the light source and then set the brush to multiply. Next up, although we draw on a 2D plane, aka our paper or digital canvas, we should still imagine the scene we are trying to draw in 3 dimensions. Because if you were to imagine what you're trying to draw in 2D, then the result will obviously look 2D as well, which for most artists isn't the style they are trying to achieve. Example. When drawing a hand, you shouldn't construct it using a 2-dimensional rectangle, but rather a 3-dimensional flat box which has volume and perspective. That way the resulting hand will look much more real and convincing, which is good because we want to convince the viewer that the drawing is real, at least within its own universe. As a last example, many tutorials telling you how to draw a face use a circle to construct the head, which in itself isn't bad for beginner artists, but if you want to truly level up your drawings, you should start imagining the head not as a 2-dimensional circle but as a 3-dimensional sphere, because only then you will even attempt to apply perspective and foreshortening to it. On another note, if you'd like to create drawings that appear 2D, then nothing's wrong with that. Also, if you see professionals use 2-dimensional forms to construct 3-dimensional images, well, they're professionals and they do the construction mostly in their heads, so they don't really count here. Next up is a quick one. Flip your canvas. As we create a drawing, our brains become used to the image, and therefore will not notice any mistakes we made, such as proportions that are way off. An easy fix to this is to flip your drawing. It will look like a wholly new image to your brain and you will notice mistakes instinctually. In case you're drawing traditionally, you could look at it in the mirror or flip it and hold it up against the bright sky. Coupled with this tip is the next one, which is don't zoom in too much. You should always have an overview over your whole painting, so that the overall values and colors are on point. Otherwise, you might get lost in the details and not notice if proportions or values are off. Next up is a short but important tip. A lot of times I see beginner drawings which look good but lack a lot of impact. Often that is due to the artist not being confident enough in their colors, thereby choosing values that do not have as much contrast as they should. So if your drawings feel too muted, try to be more confident when coloring shadows or light. Trust the process. In the beginning stages of a drawing, it may look quite terrible, at least that's the case for me, which is why I scrap a lot of my sketches which might even have potential. But on the other side, I know that if I pull through this ugly sketch phase, the drawing will improve, and it might even become one of my most favorite ones. So just trust the process. Oftentimes, when beginner artists say that their colors look off, then in 90% of the cases it's not the color itself, but a component of it, value, aka how light or dark an area is. To see if there really is an issue regarding your values, you can add a black layer on top of your drawing and set its layer mode to saturation. If your drawing still looks off after that, then the values are your problem. So as a general advice, values are much more important than hue or saturation when it comes to painting. Focus on getting the values right. Color is way too overrated. One of the most important tips, if not the most important one, is do not draw ideas, draw reality. Our brain thinks in categories. It assigns each category some characteristics, and we identify our surroundings by putting objects into these categories. This is great for dealing with the massive amount of information our brain receives through our eyes, but becomes a hindrance when drawing. For example, when we think of an eye, the most prominent characteristics we associate with it are this oval shape with two corners, a circle for the iris and pupil, and lines for the eyelashes. Even a 5-year-old child would be able to identify this drawing as an eye because it has all necessary characteristics to be identified as such. However, it doesn't look realistic or even close to semi-realistic because you drew the idea, the concept of an eye, not how it appears in reality. Another example would be to draw water with a blue color. Most people will recognize it as water, but it won't look realistic, because just making it blue is an oversimplification. Although in reality water can appear blue, in small amounts it looks more like this. In conclusion, if you'd like to draw something that looks even remotely realistic, you shouldn't draw ideas, but reality. Obviously, to do this you first need to know what reality really looks like, leading to my final and most important point. If you want to improve massively as an artist, then there's one advice I can give you which has helped my art immensely over the years. This advice is more of a general mindset and it goes as follows. Walk around in your life and question everything you see. As an example, imagine it's Saturday and you're going out for a walk. It's a sunny day and you look at the beautiful scenery in front of you. You look at the blue shadows, the sky which for some reason seems to become more muted towards the horizon, the clouds, etc, etc. If you weren't an artist, you would see these things but not really notice them. But now, as an artist, you do notice them and you begin to question these things. Like, why do these shadows appear blue yet these ones have a yellowish tone? Why does the color of the sky go from a deep blue to a more grayish blue towards the horizon? Why do these mountains and buildings in the distance appear so blue? Why do these shadows appear more blurry the farther they are away? Why are the shadows so blurry today when normally on a sunny day they are really sharp? Why does the display of my phone behave more like a mirror the more I look at it from an angle? What properties does this wet road have that make it look wet in the first place? All of these questions can be answered logically by spending some time thinking about them. Or, if you can't seem to reach an answer, by simply googling them. Through this mindset, questioning everything you see, you will be able to understand more deeply what reality looks like, and more importantly, why it looks the way it does. This obviously will help a lot when drawing. After all, in essence, drawing is about capturing reality, or at least a sense of reality. In conclusion, while living your daily life, just think about what I just told you and question everything you see to understand why it looks the way it does. And that's it already for this video. Here is a list of everything we just talked about. I hope you found this video helpful and consider checking out my other videos. Thank you for your attention and bye.